Once upon a time, in the lush green hills of Jamaica, Anansi the spider was up to his old tricks again. You see, Anansi was known far and wide as a trickster, always looking for a way to fill his belly without doing any hard work. And on this particular day, his belly was rumbling like a thunderstorm. As Anansi strolled through the village, he spotted something that made his eyes pop wide open and his mouth water. It was a big, fat, juicy goat tied to a tree in front of Miss Maddie's house. Now, this wasn't just any goat, it was the fattest, plumpest goat Anansi had ever seen. The goat looked so succulent that Anansi could almost taste the stew bubbling in his pot. But there was one problem. Miss Maddie was known to be the sharpest woman in the village. She kept a close eye on her prize goat, and Anansi knew he couldn't just snatch it up without facing her wrath. So, he sat down on a rock and started to think. His 8 legs tapped the ground as his brain spun like a top, searching for the perfect plan. "Aha!" Anansi exclaimed, snapping his fingers. "I got it! I know just what we do." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the village grew quiet, Anansi crept up to Miss Maddie's house. He carried with him a big sack, looking like a man on a mission. He knocked on the door, and when Miss Maddie answered, Anansi put on his sweetest smile. "Good evening, Miss Maddie," Anansi began, bowing low. "Me comfy help you out tonight." Miss Maddie raised an eyebrow, suspicious as ever. "Help me out?" "You, Anansi? You must be up to something." "Oh no, Miss Maddie." "Not at all," Anansi said, pretending to be hurt. "Me here say you goat is the finest in the whole village. So me decide to do you a favor." "A favor?" Miss Maddie asked, crossing her arms. "What kind of favor?" "Well, me know how much you care for dat goat. And me was thinking, it would be a shame if anything happened to it. So me going to take the goat to me yard feed the night, keep it safe, you see. Dat way, nobody can thief it." Miss Maddie thought for a moment. She knew Anansi was tricky, but she also knew how dangerous it was to leave anything valuable outside at night. Maybe, just maybe, Anansi was actually being helpful for once. "All right, Anansi," Miss Maddie finally agreed. "But if anything happened to me goat, me going to make sure you never forget it. Don't worry yourself." "Miss Maddie," Anansi said, grinning from ear to ear. "You goat safe with me." And with that, Anansi untied the goat and led it back to his house, whistling a merry tune as he went. But as soon as Anansi reached his home, he rubbed his hands together and chuckled. "Tonight, me going to feast like a king," he declared. But just as Anansi was about to light his fire and sharpen his knife, he heard a loud thud at his door. Anansi froze. Who could that be? Carefully, he peeked out through a crack in the door, only to see a gigantic, fierce-looking dog staring back at him. This wasn't just any dog, this was Miss Maddie's guard dog, known to be the most ferocious in the village. "Lord have mercy," Anansi muttered under his breath. He knew if the dog caught him cooking the goat, he was in big trouble. But Anansi was a quick thinker. "Ah, me have a plan," he whispered to himself. He quickly dressed the goat in one of his old coats and a hat, tied a rope around its neck, and opened the door with a broad smile. "Good evening, Mr. Dog," Anansi said, as cool as can be. "What a surprise. You catch me in the middle of dressing me dear cousin Theo walk." The dog tilted his head, not sure what to make of the situation. The goat, now dressed like a person, stared blankly ahead, chewing on a piece of grass. "You see, me cousin just arrived from far," Anansi continued, "and me was just about showed him around the village. Maybe you would like to join us." The dog sniffed the air, eyeing the goat suspiciously. But Anansi kept up his act, chatting away as if everything was normal. "Well, if you insist," Anansi said, pretending to be annoyed. "You can come along, but me going to keep an eye on you." With that, Anansi and the goat dressed like a person set off down the path, with the dog following closely behind. As they walked through the village, people looked on in confusion. Some scratched their heads, others burst out laughing. Anansi always up to something, they whispered. But the dog was no fool. After a while, he realized something was fishy. Just as he was about to pounce, Anansi quickly tied the goat to a tree and bolted, leaving the dog and the goat behind. The dog barked furiously, but it was too late. Anansi had disappeared into the night. The next morning, Miss Maddie found her goat tied to a tree near Anansi's house, dressed in a coat and hat, looking as confused as ever. When she heard what happened, she couldn't help but laugh. Anansi might have tried to trick her, but in the end, he only managed to entertain the whole village with his foolishness. And so, the story spread far and wide. And people laughed whenever they remembered how Anansi tried to dress a goat like a person. As for Anansi, he went hungry that night, but he didn't mind too much. After all, a good laugh was worth more than a bellyful of stew, well, almost. And from that day on, whenever someone tried to get away with something sneaky in the village, people would say, "You think you smart like Anansi, but you not getting away with it."